Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday and another edition of Danny and Tim's Music Scene. It's always fun, it's always eclectic, it's always engaging, and it always puts a smile on my face, and we are at it again with interesting information, some comments from the head of Live Nation that he thinks big shows can return in the summertime. We'll see if that comes to pass. Tim and I will talk about it. I think we probably think it's a little bit too soon for something like that, but maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe we'll be having fun in the meantime. We've got some interesting suggestions and documentaries and music bios that certainly can pass the time and do more than that, entertain, send you down an internet rabbit hole after you watch some bands that maybe you aren't too familiar with, and go into some blasts of the past, returns to some great documentaries like The Wrecking Crew, and some things, interesting tidbits from the 60s like Pop Gear with the Beatles and the Animals, and some things that are more current. It's all over the map as usual, and it's all over a great map with Tim Finn. And it's our Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday presented by Cinematic Visions, and our every other week visit with Tim Finn on Danny and Tim's Music Scene coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. You know, the storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing, integrity matters. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. It's time to visit once again with Dr. Brad Woodle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And Dr. Brad, your group has reached a significant milestone in receiving a prestigious award.
Danny, we've been honored for the 10th year in a row to receive the 5-Star Service Award from Integrity Doctors. And what this means is that all of our offices throughout Kansas City have made sure to give people excellent chiropractic and acupuncture care, be on time, and do a very complete and thorough job, and have great responses back from patients.
I know firsthand because I was just treated, for instance, today by you. You have a wide range of fantastic services.
Absolutely. Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies, rehab, anything that you need to keep you well in bones, muscles, joints, and nerves.
And I can't say how much it's benefited me in the time I've coming here, upwards of 2 years. My back has improved 100%. And you can have that same kind of treatment too. For more information and your chance for a healthier way of life, visit asfca.com/Danny today.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
First off, apparently the days of COVID have concluded because one of the biggest promoters of big shows in the world, Live Nation, apparently has decided that this summer is going to be Boffo. Seems a little premature, maybe not to some people, maybe to other people they are. You clued me in on this, so let's talk about it.
Michael Rapino, who is the CEO of Live Nation, and early this week he pretty much just proclaimed that there's going to be big shows in the middle of the summer, and it will be, they're working out details now. They're trying to figure out which states and cities, will welcome these kinds of shows. So there's nothing definite yet, and there won't be for a matter of weeks, but promoters and bands are all fired up. He said midsummer. Yeah, so that's what he said. Large-scale U.S. concerts could start in midsummer. We think we're better off waiting for a high bar capacity moment in most of the states to ramp up, talk about the artists, about getting paid properly. He said in the largest markets, there'll be 75% capacity in the venues. So that would be at Sprint Center, would be 9,000 or 9 or 10,000. Okay, if you're comfortable with that, good luck. You go. I'm going to wait and see, but I think it's evidence that we are progressing. And, based on what I hear on all the news shows and all the commentators, it's like, but let's not get ahead of ourselves, because there's still so many variables out there that aren't being controlled. The vaccination rate isn't where it should be. So let's not go too fast. And that's what this feels like. People on my social media feeds are like, yeah, I'm not going to a show this summer. Not a big one, not with thousands and thousands of people. Sorry. I'm too nervous going into, a store, much less, an arena when no one's going to be wearing masks. Like, no, it's just too early.
I was curious when you talked about that, 75% venue and thinking about T-Mobile Center. It'll take me a while to get that right on a more than regular basis. It just sounds like, once you get up to that percentage, what's the configuration? What are you leaving out?
Yeah.
I don't quite understand. I mean, it seems like once you get past 50%, it's almost like, well, it might as well be 100% because how are you going to construct, space that it's not clicking in my mind? Is it you? Is it yours?
No. How are you going to organize people? What are you going to do in the restrooms? What about the bar areas? They're going to have to hire, 1,300 staff people just to walk around and try to make sure people are being safe. It all seems hypothetical right now, which is why I'm not investing a lot of optimism in it. I hope so. Of course, we all want it to happen, but the last thing we want is, we've taken some steps forward, but you don't want to take, a dozen back because there's a relapse or, who knows what. Schools are going to be back. My stepson's going to go back full time in a couple weeks, and that seems to be okay for schools, but even that's, the evidence on that isn't 100% flawless. So, I think we need to take these progressions carefully on small scales. Make it, 30%. It's just, I don't know. There wasn't a lot of details in this announcement, and
Maybe they're kind of, sometimes people put out trial balloons and try to get a sense of what people's reactions are.
Reaction, right.
Yeah, to things like that. But like I said, once you're getting well above 50%, then it's just configuring things to say that we're being safer than 100%. I don't quite.
Right.
Maybe what they're thinking is that we're going to have these big shows, but maybe they anticipate that they won't be able to sell tickets at the kind of rate they did before, so it will kind of fix itself, as it were.
Right. I don't think anybody wants to lose any more money, but I guess doing nothing is is the easiest and the worst way to not make money. So, it's probably worth some kind of endeavor to try to get things going that way. And there will be places where it's not going to matter. I mean, the motorcycle rally in Sturgis went on like nothing was happening, so there will be, I'm sure, states and governments that welcome shows and say, come on, we want the money is why they'll say yes. We want the tax revenue and the jobs and all that. But I think there's going to be a lot of wait and see also. And who knows what bands are going to feel safe going out. There's so many unknowns here. But like you said on the intro, a lot of people it's as if they think, yeah, we're done. Like, it was like it was a sports season. The last game's been played. Let's move on. And because they announced that Alabama's football team's going to play before a full stadium, which holds like 100,000. And they said it like, yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. We're going to do it because we can and we have to.
Well, we'll see how that plays out. And that, like I said, maybe it's trial balloon. Maybe they figure that they won't sell the kind of inventory. I know that you've said before we started that in your circle of friends and things like that, there's still a little reticence as to how that's concerned. I'm in a situation now. My wife is in a health situation. I'm certainly thinking that I'm not going to be going to shows like that and compromising.
Oh, absolutely.
And the other part is what you mentioned is the bands. They bands travel in tight quarters. Now they themselves can in amongst, but when they go to a town, maybe they're using a different lighting guy and they're local technicians and people like that. I mean, there's the logistics of even reasonably small shows are pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I heard someone say, yeah, well, there's going to be someone trying to rationalize it. So there will be more cases of COVID, but fewer deaths. So, because, we got that under control, as if that's comfort. I don't know. Not for me.
Now, you I mentioned before we started as well that you get your Canopy subscription up and rolling again, and so that means some real neat documentaries to recommend.
Right, yeah, I blew through my monthly allotment in February in about 18 days, so I've got to ration them a little more. But I got my 10 for March yesterday, and I came upon this documentary that was released in 1965, but it covers the year of music 64 in Great Britain and England, and this movie Pop Gear is hosted by this guy named Jimmy Savile, Savile, S-A-V-I-L-E, who hosted Top of the Pops, a very great, well-known historic British music show. His name may be Savile because if you check his history, he's got some pretty awful sex charges against him. Yeah, ooh, man, he's not Gary Glitter, but he's close. But he's just like, he looks like Marty Feldman. He looks like a Monty Python character, really, like a cross between Marty Feldman and Eric Idle. But he wears his hair's really, he's got a blonde mop top, and he's just, between this long succession of videos of these bands, pretending to sing their recorded music, he introduces them. He's really kind of goofy and daffy. But, they open with the Beatles, a live version of She Loves You. And then there are some well-known bands that come along, the Animals and Herman's Hermits, and I was telling you Spencer Davis group with an incredibly fresh-faced Steve Winwood. But so they're all pretending to play kind of like they would do on Bandstand, but there's no audience. But what was really intriguing and appealing to me was all these bands that I didn't know about, like the Nashville Teens, the Rockin' Berries, the Foremost, F-O-U-R, the Four Pennies. There was a group called the Honeycombs, whose drummer, they were named after their drummer, a woman, who her name was Honey, and she was an assistant to a hairstylist, not a hairstylist, but she was like Dwight Schrute of hairstylist. She was assistant to the hairstylist, so they named themselves Honeycombs, and she played some really lively drums, and it's all that really bright poppy, kind of highly crafted, a lot of really nice chord changes and progressions, and but after, it lasts 70 minutes, but after like an hour, you're like, wow, that's a lot of the same kind of music. everybody's wearing suits and ties, and they all have the same hair. So it's just an idea of how rampant and viral that whole scene was, and how everyone wanted to be part of it. So they all bought some suits and bought some instruments, and so it was really good. There was this singer named Matt Monroe, M-O-N-R-O.
Yeah, I know who he is. Actually, all those people that you've said that you didn't know, I actually knew who they were. I don't know what that says, but yeah, he was kind of great. Matt Monroe was kind of a crooner type of guy, right?
Yeah, and I mean, they're all British. What's really kind of refreshing is no one, I mean, the Beatles were nice looking, but nobody is like excessively dreamboat, heartthrob handsome, they're but it doesn't matter because they're all playing their instruments and writing pretty tight, hot pop songs, and a lot of good music. I mean, it was sort of like watching early MTV, where they had VJs who just came on and introduced videos, and then there was 90% music, unlike it is or has been for decades.
Right?
So, I mean, if you're interested in that and just finding some bands to explore, because now I'm going down rabbit holes on Spotify for some of these bands and artists, and it was it was fun. And then Canopy will always recommend other documentaries and films when you choose something like this, and that's just like 10 isn't going to be enough again this month.
Well, I was just kicking around trying to look for stuff as well, and that we've been watching a lot of other things besides music over the last month or so. But I stumbled upon this one, a film, a documentary made in 1986. It's called Inside Out, Athens, Georgia, and
I just found,
that would be. I'm really looking forward to trying to find that somewhere.
Right. I think I came across that maybe last night. Yes, that's ringing a bell. I found that somewhere. I mark it, like my stuff or whatever, so I don't have to go looking for it. It puts it in a list for me. But yeah, I need to find that again, because that was one I wanted to watch for sure.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're familiar with many of the. It's just interesting how a scene will pop up, and of course, REM and the B-52s come from there, and it always makes me think, because this is the early '80s, and I was deciding on whether to go to school in the mid to late mid 1970s, and I remember that Georgia was one of the schools that I was choosing from out of the five, and I had a friend who was the number one ranked tennis player in America. And he had gone on a recruiting trip to Georgia, and he knew what I was like. And when I was asking about it, he said, "It's really too much. I know what you're like. It's too much like the South." And I always think of that in retrospect, because I'm like, I think Ferdy was his name. I said, I think Ferdy was wrong. I think they took him to the wrong places, because it seems like Athens is a really cool place, and he was making it sound like it was, backwoods, Alabama or something.
Yeah. Well, I think I consider it to be more like Lawrence.
Yeah.
It's Kansas, and it's pretty bohemian. The city itself and the college. Yeah. A band called Pylon came out of there. They were contemporaries of REM. Check them out. Really good band. REM covers a couple of their songs on their Dead Letter Office, their B-sides and stuff. I saw Pylon open for the band X when I was a student at Mizzou. So, yeah, it was a really vibrant scene, and a lot of bands that came out from there afterwards definitely say they were huge. I think the band called Guadalcanal Diaries from there. I know I was a fan of those for a while, but yeah, REM and that whole scene really influenced bands 10, 15, 20 years later.
No question about that, and ones that I haven't heard just are intriguing anyway. It lists the B-52s, et cetera, and then it says, as well as Rockabilly Firecrackers, Flat Duo Jets, the Kilkenny Cats, and Punk's Barbecue Killers.
No.
If that doesn't make you want to investigate the documentary, I don't know what will as well. But
I know the Flat Duo Jets, but I hadn't heard of the other two either. Yeah,
Kilkenny Cats.
It's all those bands are being influenced by punk, post-punk, new wave, but they were in the South, so it does have its own like regional flavor because all those bands sound different from everybody else.
No question about that. And you mentioned that it is a time when you tend to try to go down internet rabbit holes or documentary rabbit holes, and that's a little about what we're doing this time around as we're visiting with Tim Finn. He joins us on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions. We talk to him every other week, and we'll continue to do so coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with David Schmidt from Private Capital. And David, tell us more about your outstanding firm.
Thanks, Danny. Here at Private Capital, we focus on return on asset. In today's world, it is survival of the fittest. We look at things from all angles and try to figure out what works best for you. The changes we will see this next year on assets will be monumental. The key to success is knowledge. Know where you want to go, and we'll be here along the way. To find out more, give us a call at 816-221-7775.
David Schmidt from Private Capital with the best service for you. Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the pure gold oil. And recently I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway.
Right now, it's more important than ever to support local businesses, and 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence is open and ready to take care of you. Make 23rd Street Brewery part of your KU game day experience, whether you watch the game there or grab curbside pickup for your tailgates or watch parties.
But not just game days, 23rd Street Brewery is great any day of the week, and when the weather's nice, you can take advantage of their heaters on the patio. 23rd Street Brewery is open daily from 11:30 to 9 for dine-in, carry-out, curbside pickup, and can even help with your catering needs.
So support local and visit a Lawrence favorite, 23rd Street Brewery.
Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from RecExpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit RecExpert.com and learn more. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. We are back with Tim and talking about music, and we always have fun doing so. And I actually entered the world of actual streaming on my television. And then people out there are just telling me to get off my front porch rocker right now. On Saturday night, it was my wife's birthday, and about a month previous, she had seen that the Mavericks were doing a show on Saturday the 27th, and she bought tickets for it. I think they were about $27 or something like that. And it was interesting. I think people can probably seek it out now. It's still up because it was a show. It wasn't a concert. It was a show, and it was on a thing called Nugs.net. That's where you went, and it's a part of the Apple TV family. So maybe people can search it out. And it's the fourth one they've done, and it was really, really good. We don't have the best way to set up the sound there, but I did successfully get it up on my television. I'll say that. And so my wife's birthday was made, but it was a very. It didn't appear to be, even for the songs they were doing, live in any way. It looked like it was done and produced for that. But it was a combination of on set or on stage playing, which was fabulous, and they're always great. And the mixture of some of the songs from this all Spanish album and some of their hit songs as well. And that was really great. But they interspersed it with interviews with their horn section. And I don't think there is anything I enjoy more than listening to musicians talk about music. There were two guys who were Spanish speaking, but they were speaking English and pretty darn good English, but with that kind of beautiful lyrical thing. And then there was Max, and I always forget his last name, who is a saxophone player, and it's just a delight to listen to people talk about the backstory of how they became involved with the Mavericks, and that Max had heard of them, and he had a friend who he thought that his run of 6 or 7 years playing in Nashville was coming to an end, and he got a call from a friend, and the friend said, the Mavericks are getting back together, and I think they might be looking for a horn player, a saxophone player, and Max said, have them call me right now. I don't need to ask for the price. I don't need to, negotiate. I just want to play with them. And then the two other trumpet players talked about how Max, who seems like the nicest guy in the world, but apparently is a bit of a taskmaster as far as leading the horn section. And those interviews interspersed with the music, it was just fantastic. And of course, you've interviewed so many musicians through the years, but sometimes when it's the supporting musicians and they're just talking about music, and the love for their craft just oozes out.
Right. Well, I interviewed, I'm trying to remember because it's been so long, and I've done a few of them, but there was a show coming to town, and the band had not been back together for a while. And anyway, the two guys in the band, I just let them talk to each other, and I threw in a question every now and then, and they just went back and forth. And like you were saying, recollections of shows, moments, writing songs, the studio, and you really get behind the scenes. You listen to them recollect how songs were born, talk about guys who were in and out of the band and why, and so they reveal a little bit of dirt. And and especially these two guys, because they had been apart for a while. The band had been on hiatus for a while. So they were really energized, and they were having fun remembering stuff that they had thought about in a while. And I'm with you. I love that. Just let the experts talk as much as they want. And, when the conversation hits a lull, I'll throw a question out, and then they'll run for another 5 or 10 minutes.
It's always interesting to think of the dynamics of the band, because in the last couple of times I've seen them, were you talking to Raul and Eddie Perez, the guitarist? Was that who it was? Or I don't know.
No, it wasn't for the Mavericks. It was for a different band.
Oh, different band. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, normally when you go see the Mavericks in concert, Eddie is as much a front man, and I think I mentioned he played with Dwight Yoakam, and some of the greatest, you should Google them out there, folks, some of the greatest rock guitar photos you'll ever see is dueling Dwight Yoakam and Eddie Perez. But there's a lot of cool pictures of Eddie anyway. But for this, and the last couple times I've seen him, Eddie's kind of taken a step back, and I think probably if they come out and play at Knuckleheads in May, we'll see if that happens. And we did sort of break a little news with Frank on our recent podcast that they may be trying to split the shows in half on each night to try and accommodate in May, but we'll see if that happens. But just the fact that somebody can, be, I guess as it were, humble enough to, for this particular enterprise, let Raul be the total front man on it, and he's just back there playing guitar. And the simpatico of musicians and things like that, that's one thing that I always look for. That's why I never had any urge whatsoever to see the Eagles. I mean, if somebody had given me a free ticket to go see the Eagles, I probably wouldn't do it, because I know that they don't, musically maybe they can abide each other, but it's just a cash grab. And I want to see people enjoying each other up on stage. And there's nothing, if they're having fun, I'm having fun, no matter what band it is.
Right. Well, when I saw the Eagles the last time, it was a little different because Vince Gill was among them.
Right.
And,
that would help anything, because I saw a big interview, the Dan Rather thing, with, and this is kind of interesting because we watched two, I think, on consecutive nights, and one of them was Daryl Hall, and the other one was Vince Gill. And there could not have been a greater difference in the genuine nature of those two individuals. Right. And it seems like Vince Gill could probably solve peace in the Middle East. I mean, that maybe that's why you got a better sense of that for the Eagles in that show. Yeah,
he warmed up the stage significantly, and he's a great guitarist. He's an absolutely great guitarist, and his harmonies were spot on. So, but the thing about the Eagles, and this has happened at least twice when I've seen them, show ends, and I run downstairs from now the T-Mobile Center, and go up south on Grant to head towards the newsroom. And it seems both times I saw them, I had to stop because the fleet of like 6 huge SUVs with one each in them, because they weren't going to travel together.
Right.
Couldn't stand a moment in the car together. Yeah. But they all were in their same, they each had their own car. And it was kind of like, I'll meet you at the arena and then see you wherever we play next. And, there's not much warmth coming off the stage.
No, and that just kind of reminds me back in the late 70s, early 80s, the Red Sox had a good team, and they used to say about the team that, they didn't have much chemistry either, but they could play together. And it was and the line was 25 players, 25 cabs.
That's why I love Tom Petty so much. The Heartbreakers, essentially the same band. They fired the drummer because he was a jerk and thought his britches were bigger than they were. And then Ron Blair left. They brought in Howie Epstein, who they said, go away and get over your drug habit. He didn't. He died. And they brought back Ron Blair. But that team, or that band was together. And you can tell it on stage because every time you saw them, they were like, wow, we're still here doing this. And we love each other. And just the warmth and the vibe on stage was such a part of those shows. Like, they looked like a family and they acted like one. And they shared that with their audiences.
And speaking of that, in a different vein, you recently revisited the documentary about the Wrecking Crew, the unbelievable session backup band that played on so many things and probably didn't get their due either financially or otherwise. But I saw that a long time ago, and just you saying that you saw it again recently makes me yearn to go back and revisit that again.
Yeah, because it had been at least 8 years, maybe longer, since I saw it. I'd only seen it once, and it's about this collection of studio musicians, just absolutely some of the best in the world, who played all of the backing music for, you just name it. There was pretty much everybody. Among them was Glenn Campbell, who would emerge and become his own, star who needed backup. And, but it was just a lot of these guys. A lot of them were jazz musicians who said, I'll play rock and roll,
Right.
It's easier, but the money was really good for some of them. They were like, because they'd go to like 4 gigs a day and pick up a nice chunk at each one, and they were living high. They were living really well. What I forgot is one of the I'm going to forget his name, Tony Tedesco or something.
Tedesco, yeah.
It was like the main guitarist from where I grew up. He's from Niagara Falls, and I grew up just north of there. And man, he talks like every Italian I knew from where I grew up. Just that I felt like I was listening to my brother-in-law. My sister married an Italian guy, and the same gestures. My other sister works for a dentist. He looks like that guy. So it was really funny. How did I miss that the first time? But phenomenal guitar player. Never had his own solo career. But there was something of a scandal when it was, came to light that the Monkees were not playing their instruments.
Right.
Well,
they didn't let the Byrds play on one of their early. I think that was the Wrecking Crew, I believe. But
yeah, they played on the Byrds, and there was some resentment there. But the guy's like, "Yeah, well, you can't play like us. Sorry, you can't do what we do."
And another thing that was cool about it is that I think the rhythm guitarist was a woman. I can't remember her name.
Bass player.
Bass player. That's right. Yeah, Carol Kay. That's right. Yeah, and she's just fabulous.
Well, she like epitomizes what they were and what they did. The song Wichita Lineman, that bass intro. Right. She came up with that. That's her on bass. And they went through a bunch of songs like, oh yeah, whoever the artist was, they would give us these songs and we would just add these little flourishes, this embroidery. So a lot of what you hear, a lot of what makes the song, identifies the song, is stuff that these musicians came up with. And brilliant. But, eventually it was treated like you can't do that anymore, guys. So
right.
The band became better musicians, and they weren't hiring backups to do the albums, and the work dried up. And it was sad, because at the end, one of the guys was like, "I had to sell everything." And then my wife divorced me, and I was like broke. I was like absolutely broke. I'd never thought I'd get to that point, but he found some work back in the late '80s, and his career revived itself, but not like it had been. So it was just it was a moment in time, but man, the people who were part of it were just some of the greatest musicians. And like you said, most of them are pretty unknown and deserve to be better known.
Yeah, and darned if I can't remember it. I just like you said, the Wichita Lineman, I read about another song there's a really iconic intro to the song that's just a bass line, and I can't remember it right now. So that makes for pretty bad podcasting. So I won't even go down that road.
Well, I can't think of the example that the guy who played bass on one of these songs. He's just playing that, and from the second he starts, you knew what song he was playing.
Right.
And like I said, I watched it with my wife, who's not steeped in music, a lot of music before 75, at least the history. But she was knew like virtually nothing about this, and was just kind of mesmerized by how great they were. What they brought to the music, and how anonymous they were, and why they weren't more famous. And it's a brilliant movie, and it's in depth, and it goes deep on what was a really significant moment in our culture and pop. I feel like any kind of music, because they played for a lot of styles, a lot of bands, and learn some of their names, because they deserve a lot of recognition. And I think some of them, or maybe as a crew, they're in the Hall of Fame, but if not, they deserve their own wing.
Yeah, I think Hal Blaine he's the drummer, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Tim, it's you ought to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You're in my Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we appreciate you every other week, and look forward to the next time around, and when we have fun with music and bring some smiles to the table. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Next time, Danny.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.